Hey everyone, so welcome back to the MHP Show podcast. I'm your host, Derek Vickers. Here on the MHP Show, we talk about anything and everything that has to do with this crazy business of mobile home park investing, trailer parks, whatever you want to call it. We talk about operations, management, the crazy things that happen, all that stuff. We got another guest for you today, but really quick, I wanted to remind everyone about the webinar. It's go.parkinvestingpro.com. I did a webinar a couple of months ago, and it's basically goes over the basics of investing in this business and learning this asset class. Because in the beginning, it took me a little bit longer to take action because I didn't understand the basics of the business. And so I talk about this in this free webinar. So if you go to go.parkinvestingpro.com and check that out, we've also got a bunch of other things coming out, the online course, and you'll probably hear me running my mouth about that stuff on Instagram here at some point. So without further ado, so we have Mr. Jimmy Johnson here. Man, I feel like I remember at the beginning of the year, I see this guy, posting on his story on Instagram, like number 65 closed, number 66 closed. And I'm like, shit, man, what am I doing? Like he's closing stuff left and right. So Jimmy is the owner of Sand Dollar Communities. He owns and operates mobile home parks, has a couple other businesses that he does out of that. So welcome to the show, Jimmy. And by the way, Jimmy Johnson, that's a really American name. I love it, dude.
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks for having me on. And I think I think Jimmy Johnson's like the third, fourth most popular name in like the whole world. So there's pros and cons to it, but definitely garnishes some interest from the sellers. So
yeah, sure. They're like, did they bring up the NASCAR driver, Jimmy Johnson, all the time?
All the time. The football coach.
Yeah.
The sandwich place. And everybody knows the Jimmy Johnson, so it's always like, oh, my cousin, my uncle. So yeah, it definitely kind of gets the conversation at least going. So
yeah, like when Brian Vickers was big in NASCAR, I used to go to a bunch of NASCAR races and stuff. I used to get asked all the time if I was related, and maybe we are. I've never looked. So,
I used to have a maintenance guy who would tell like the Home Depot Pro desk line. He'd be like, "Oh, order for Jimmy Johnson. He's gone into the repair business." And everybody would let him to the front of the line. And
oh, that's awesome, man. Well, so you're in this crazy business of mobile home parks, and so how did you actually get started, or what made you want to get into that business? Well, actually, before we get into that, I really wanted to ask you. Was this your first entrepreneur journey, or was there something you did before this?
So my first entrepreneurial thing was, I guess actually my first is I was in college. I was playing soccer and couldn't really get a regular job just due to the crazy schedule with school and playing a college sport. So I went on Craigslist. I'm like, I'm gonna drum something up on here to make some money. And I see this ad, and it's like, hey, every time you take a picture of a house, we'll pay you $10. I had no idea what it was, and it was actually some foreclosure company, and some $10 a picture. I'm like, can't beat that. So I end up doing that, and then I'm all over the whole state of Florida, driving, taking pictures of people's foreclosure houses, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I'm like, man, if they're paying me $10 a picture, I know this guy must be making at least 100, and I had no idea how any of it worked. So I was mapping out 100 stops a day. I'd leave at 5 a.m, come back at midnight. I'd probably spend more money in gas than I was even making. But that was my first dabble into working for myself and into real estate as well. And then from there, I started looking, how can I kind of grow what this is? And I realized it really wasn't a way. And then I kind of stayed with the real estate stuff a little bit, and then I started a virtual assistant agency. So I had 30 to 40 VAs that we were just arbitrage. People would pay us, $5-6 an hour, and then the VAs would make $3-4 an hour. Yeah. And then from there, I went full-fledged into parks. So
awesome, man. So I was just doing the math here, 10 times 100. So that's $1,000 a day in college, dude. That's That was a lot of beer money, man. For that would have been what that would have been for me.
None of the houses were like ever on the same block. They were always like, you've got one in Tampa, then you have like 2 in Jacksonville.
Oh my God.
20 in Miami. So it'd just be like the craziest. There was like no structure to it. It was like the worst driving I've ever done my whole life.
Oh yeah. So you were driving, Tampa to Jacksonville, that's probably, 4.5 hours. And then you're going to Miami, and you would do that all in one day?
I had to, because I'm like, I got to do it all on like Sunday. And it was just crazy. I remember one time there was like 20 all in like St. Pete. And I'm like, this is like, I thought I was like the king of the world when I was done. I'm like, yeah.
You thought you were balling.
Right.
I made $2,000 today, dude. I'm balling.
Yeah. So it was that was kind of the humble beginnings and what kind of, started real estate for me. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I love asking people that question, Jimmy, because people see what you're doing and what everyone else is doing now, and they don't when Andrew Keel was on here, I asked him what his thing was, and he was like, "Yeah, I used to sell Christmas trees." And I'm like, "Dude, I didn't know that."
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So it's just so interesting, the things that people do, because typically, mobile home parks is not, the first thing. So how did you get into that business?
So I remember I was looking at, I wrote out every single asset class that there is in real estate. And I'm like, okay, how can I actually make real money? I've basically not a dollar to my name, don't know anything. I didn't graduate college. I'm pretty much I'm useless.
Either.
No money, no knowledge, nothing. So I'm like, I'm going to write them all out and I'm going to narrow it down, try and pick how I could make something here. So I narrowed it down to parks, storage, I think land or something. And then I saw that parks were the only one that there was less every year. Because, apartment buildings, there, has to be 400,000 units a year, houses being built everywhere, storage. And then I saw, I'm like, oh my God, there's only 40,000 parks. And the number I saw was actually going down more than it was growing every year. And then I'm like, there has to be a lot of demand for it. I'm like, I can't even afford an apartment, but I could probably live in a park. So I'm like, there has to be a lot of demand for the, the asset. And so I'm like, I think I'm going to do parks. And now I'm like, now what am I going to do? I'm like, could do work in them. I could, insurance. I kind of then wrote out all the different jobs in real estate. And then I, knew about wholesaling. And I'm like, I feel like this is probably for me. And yes, it was kind of just process of elimination and just checked off every other thing to do, every other asset class, landed on parks. Then I quit my job at the time. I moved in with my grandparents. And I'm like, I am going to be the best park wholesaler that there is. Didn't close anything for almost a year. And then I closed my first one, had $600 to my name. I had to borrow the earnest money from my grandma. And
that's awesome.
That was 5 years ago. And since then, closed 73 of them. So,
wow, that's freaking awesome, man. So how much did you make on that first deal?
30 grand.
30 grand? What'd that feel like?
600 to the.
What'd that feel like?
And I think it was probably to this day still one of the best days of my life because it proved everything. I'm like, I didn't even used to make 30 grand a year at my last job. I was working all day. And then it was kind of down to the end. I'm like, it was, I don't know how much longer I could have made that 600 go. And yeah, no, I mean, it was just the best. I proved everybody who said I couldn't, and a year of calling and letters. And it was actually it was the second park that I ever called was the one that ended up closing. And
wow.
And yeah, it was just the best day. And yeah, I ended up my grandparents lived on Sand Dollar Road, and I named Sand Dollar Communities after them for that, because if it wasn't for them, would have never been able to do it. So it was the name of the business and everything kind of came off that first deal, and that that just kind of was able to kickstart, actually doing real marketing and hiring people and started a real business. So
that's great. That's great. And I love that story. And I have a similar story when I was in the insurance business. I I went and signed up at an account, like a few people, and I got a direct deposit the next day for like $1,500. It was my first like 4-figure direct deposit. And I was like, oh my God. Like, so I can't imagine my first hit being 30 grand. Like I probably would have quit. I'd be like, I don't need to work now because I've never done that.
No, and that's how it felt. And it was just, it just proved the model. And then like it took a year to get there. And then I ended up closing like 3 more within like a month or so. And I ended up closed 14 that first year. So it was like, well, I guess the second year, but a whole year of kind of working for it. And then from there, the hardest deal is like always the first one. It's just so much of it's just like the mentality and the psychology and whatnot.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people in our park investing program. We had our call last week, and I'm like, guys, you just got to get the first one under the belt. It's going to be the most arduous. It's going to be the most difficult. You're going to, this is just, it's the hardest one. You know, because you sort of have this belief system kind of pulling you back because you've sort of never done it and you think it's really complicated, but in theory it's not. And so that was the same thing that happened to me after we closed the first one. It was like boom, 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 boom. We went on this crazy tear. So all those deals in your first year, did you wholesale those, or did you actually get into those deals?
They have like a whiteboard with all of them here. I've got to look. So I wholesaled the first 5 of them, and then the 6th one, it was like a 37 site park in South Carolina. I had it for like 150 grand, and then I'm like, this one, it's crazy. And I'm like, this one is like too good to just wholesale. So I'm like get some equity in it too, and then that's like the first one that I got equity in. And then that year I ended up doing like 4 more equity deals, another like 10 wholesales. And then everybody was telling me like, I want to buy this park, but I don't want to manage it. And I started like hearing like a lot of that. And I'm like, I think I should start maybe trying to like help after closing. And then I ended up managing, kind of started like doing the third party management at the end of that first year or two. Really just had to ask somebody. I'm like, hey, you're out of state. I live right here. I'm happy to, happy to go over there and help. And I'm like, I don't know, like a couple $100 a month, like I'll manage the place. And then 2,000 pads later, managed 41 parks. So
wow. And you probably, when you're like, hey, I'll manage it for a couple $100 a month, and then you got into it and you're like, man, this is work.
I started getting like yelled and screamed at by China and started getting threatened every week. And I'm like, I don't know if this was worth it. But that's been think we've been able to close so many, especially with like various partners and wholesale deals and just investors who they don't want to go to the parks. They don't want to see them. We've done like a lot of like really small town stuff just because there's just not a lot of management options out there for either like A, small parks, or B, really small towns. So I'm like, we're the guys, like if you have like a little park and like a 200 person town, we're your managers. So wow. We've been do like a lot of the stuff that like other people wouldn't do.
Yeah. And how do you like, and so my mind goes to, because, maybe I'm a wuss to a degree, most of our stuff, we've got some stabilized stuff in the Carolinas, but most of the stuff that was a portfolio that we bought into, but like most of the stuff that I've got, I can drive to in a day. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that makes me feel comfortable. But a lot of times I go there and I'm like, shit, I didn't even need to be here today. Right. Yeah. And so how do you manage all these parks that are, scattered all over the place, and even like the small ones? Like, how do you, I guess this is for my own information, like paying a manager, like talk to me about how that works.
Yes. I mean, I guess the smaller parks, to answer that question, there's always people in the park who I say, well, like, no, and we don't have anybody who does it for free, but a lot of the people would manage it for free. They love the place. They care about it. It's like their forever home. And it's like, hey, I want to have it look good. I want to be the one who, kind of controls how it looks. So we have like a lot of stuff that's in like the 6 to 15 range that we manage and operate. And then those, our typical manager there is getting like $25 a month off rent. And it's like once a week, send us pictures of anything that looks bad. send us a video. And then other than that, I mean, they're not touching any money. Everybody pays out Walmart or online. If they call or they email, it comes to our office. So they're not talking to tenants. They're not touching any money. The tenants typically take care of their own yard. If there's like any common area space, we'll just hire like a third-party company. So they're really just eyes and ears. And it's like, hey, post this eviction notice. Let so-and-so know that they're payment bounced. So, I mean, I'll tell them if you're making $25 a month and you're only working maybe an hour total, because it's 15 minutes a week, there's still, it's a little $25 hit. And that, I mean, it's still money in the door for them.
Yeah.
So that's how we've done like a lot of the small parks. And then the more remote parks, it's just the same thing. Just getting somebody there and just trying to we go to everything like at least once a year, but I've gone so many times, drop like a couple grand in travel, flights, hotels, car, go there, walk around, and like the manager's showing me stuff. I'm like, what the heck am I doing here? Just burned like 2 days. So I've got out of like a lot of the just kind of like feeling like obligated to go trips.
Yeah. And that's, I think that's same thing with me, feeling obligated to go. And that, I think that comes from, because the insurance business, when I had a team, it was very hands-on. And I actually probably made it a little bit more hands-on than it needed to be. But it's just that, I think the entrepreneur nature to do that. And so those managers, the on-site people, and these are, I would imagine these are mostly tenant-owned home parks. They're not.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're not that because some of the stuff that we bought, there's no chance it would have been able to have been managed by someone on site, because these were park-owned home disasters that we were trying to turn around. So I could definitely see that working in that.
Yeah. And we always our thing is every time we close something, we go on site day of, and we go door to door and we meet everybody. So no matter how big the park is, and we've done 150 sighters where we're there 4 days and just keep track. And I mean, we track everything, super hard. And we've noticed that the more people that we meet, so we have 150 site park, and we didn't meet about 20 people there in that first trip. And, they were on vacation, they were out of town, whatever reason. And all of our problem people that we're dealing with even a year after are in that group of people that we didn't meet. So it's all the ones that we met, we shake their hand, we go door to door. They all come inside. So it just takes forever. But they're hey, the owner's here. We didn't get a letter in the mail. We explain everything. Of course, they never the rent raise. So we're explaining why we're doing that, how to pay, answering all the questions, helping them set up their online account. So it just reduces so much of the problems. So we go super heavy in the beginning. And then I have a guy, and he's my best friend. He works for me. He travels around and sells homes in the parks. So that's how we kind of control the park owned home aspect of it. We've tried to kind of back into the more heavy touch stuff, and just make the trips really, really worth the while when we do go.
Right. Dude, that's awesome, man. And I'm really fascinated with this this model. And so that's awesome that you go door to door, and that's you that's doing that, right?
Yep, it's me every time. And then my director of operations, her and I do it together now. And we go, and I mean, it's there's so many papers, and it's the cash pays, and you're getting yelled at, and
of course
they'll be pulling her one way, me the other way. And it's I mean, it's not fun by any means, but we're typically there until 9, 10 o'clock at night, trying to catch people after work. And but no matter what, I mean, we did it in Minnesota in January. It was a record cold day. It was negative 30, and we were going door to door. And I think I'm gonna pass out. It was so cold, but they respected that. They're hey, you're out here, you're doing it. And the old owners wouldn't do anything in the winter, and you're here day one. Wasn't dressed right, don't even have winter clothes, but I was out there doing it. So.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a bit frigid, negative 30. But again, man, I commend you, because that's great to do that. And I will, these tenants They're great people. They're great working people, and they love the personal touch if you have the ability to give it to them. Because if they just get a letter or they have a problem and it festers for a while and they don't get any personal touch, then that's when the code enforcement calls start. Yep. And that's when the issues start. So I know, Jimmy, we talked about this at MHI code enforcement.
Oh yeah.
Just getting that personal touch and communication can prevent those calls from happening, because one code enforcement call can make your life miserable.
Oh, 100%. And then, they all have no matter who buys it, they have their assumption. It's Wall Street came in here. It's 10 blacked out Suburbans. Everybody's in 3-piece suits. So I have 2 outfits that I wear, and it's a plain white shirt, plain shorts. And they're oh my God, you're normal. And then we'll always ask, what did you expect? And they're I don't know. We thought Bass Pro Shops was going to buy a Walmart or some big fancy company. And I'm no, I don't get I get the cheapest rental car, or I drive my own car if possible. I'm just very hey, you're a regular person. I'm a regular person. And there's nothing to be scared or worried about. And it's such a big change for them. We've just tried to take out any of the stress, any of the risk, and make it a comfortable, smooth process. So
that's great. And that's so true too. So we met with a guy, a park owner, the one I was telling you about before we started, up in Panama City last week, it was around Panama City. And he was yeah, I don't want to deal with a broker or anybody, because he was the last broker that came here showed up in a suit and a Mercedes. And I'm dude,
yeah.
And so I tweeted something about this, and this guy was oh, you're an idiot for thinking, the guy showing up in a suit and a Mercedes is a bad thing. I'm dude, if you show up to a mom and pop seller in a mobile home park in a suit and a Mercedes, you are an idiot. I'll just say it right now.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. No, maybe there's some more institutional or professional sellers who prefer that, but yeah, the mom and pops, you gotta just mirror it, and yeah, we'll go out. I'm where do you want to go to eat? Show me the best place in town. If they want to go out drinking, we're going drinking. If they want to, whatever they want to do, we're riding tractors and whatever they want to do. And it's, yeah, it's just got to kind of mirror it.
So hold on. You said, I got that. That's great. You said riding tractors. I got to hear about this. Is this real, or is this just...
No. So, I have so many crazy seller stories, good and bad. But yeah, no. We have one now where it's, when we went there, it's the manager. So the seller was oh, I'll show you around the park. We're went on this guy's tractor, and we ended up hiring this guy as the manager. And now once a year we go. So he does everything at the park. The collections are perfect. We never get a call. Nothing happens. And there's if you do that once a year, we're going to the farm. So once a year we go to his farm. We shoot guns and
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's just that's fun for him. It's fun for us, and it's such a good operating park. But from tractors to going out until 5 a.m. to just everything under the sun. A lot of the sellers, they're crazy stories, and people paying the rent, but they're not paying with money. Just everything. And that's what I love, to go and meet them and learn and hear what they have to say. And I somehow always end up going inside their house and probably staying way too long. But yeah, that's what they like to do. And yeah.
Yeah, I get that, man. I'm the same way. I don't know if it's if I'm easy to talk to or whatnot, but I always seem to end up in their house. I'm should I be in here? Am I staying here too long?
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
What? So give me, and we may do more, but I gotta give me 2 of your craziest stories.
They're crazy. I gotta filter which ones I should say in public.
You don't have to if you want. Whatever. It's up to you.
Yeah. So one of the craziest ones. So I'm at this park. It was one of my buddies like referred it. He like lives a couple states away. And he's like, you got to go like see this park. It's in Indiana. Like the guy's like prime, like perfect seller for you. So I go there, I'm walking around the park. Place is like absolute disaster. It's in a great area. I mean, just you think on paper it's like a home run deal. So we're walking up, and he's like, all right, let's you're gonna tell something's off. So then we like he lives in the park. Typically, that's either the best thing or the worst thing. And what had kind of like caught, it was like me and I had this maintenance guy at the time. I was with him because he was at like a different park of ours working. So I'm like, man, like you see like all the tenants are kind of younger-ish girls. Like I haven't seen like one guy in here. So I'm like, I don't know. It just kind of weird. It's like if you went to a park and everybody kind of looks the same. It's like, what's going on? So we're in this guy's house and we're like going through all the financials, and he's showing he's bringing in like nothing a month. And I'm like, well, I should lead with when we walked in the house, there was like dog shit all over in the house, like hundreds of piles. So I'm like gasping for air. He's chain smoking cigarettes, and we're sitting at like almost like a bedside table. It's like how small it was. That was like his kitchen table. So we're like almost nose to nose. We're so close. Oh my God. He's puffing these cigarettes right into my mouth, basically. The whole house smells like shit. And he goes, yeah, well, we're only making a couple $100 a month. Most people are, they're not really paying with money. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, we're buying the park. Like, we got to like pay the bills, the mortgage. He's like, oh no, maybe I gave like the wrong impression. Like everybody's just sleeping with me.
No way.
And this was like a 30 cider. So we were like, we gotta like get out of here, like right now. And yeah, I mean that was crazy. And
that's pretty crazy. So did you guys buy that one?
Oh no, of course not.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we had that one. And my probably second craziest story was so it's a deal that we did when they're managing it, and it was like just the park from hell. And then like, the police called, and then this is all like in a week, and they're like, hey, like, can you contact like lot 40? Let her know her husband passed away.
He said this? The police told you?
Yeah, okay. The police called me. And I'm like, I don't really like call and like break the news. Like, but I'm like, I'm not gonna have the manager do it. Like, I'll, be the man. Like, I'll call and, break the news. So I'm like, I forget what her name is. I'm like, Susie, Randy, he didn't make it, And then she's like, he's here with me right now. And I'm like, what do you mean? No, the police said he's at home. He passed away in bed. And they're like, no, he's here. So then they like rush back there, and like a homeless guy just broke in, passed away in the bed. And that's it. So then what? I wasn't there, but like some of the tenants and the manager told me. So they take out the body, and then like Susie and Randy just went right in, and there was no like washing machine in that unit. Breeze like checked their notes, and they like just went right to bed in it.
Oh my gosh.
And that park is like 10 other stories like that. So
wow. Where is that park?
That one is in Kansas.
Oh wow. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. All right, so you got to give me one more, because those are too good.
The next one, city council's like in the park, same park as this Kansas one. She calls, or like somebody affiliated with the city, and they're like, there's like the storage shed in the park. And I think we've joked about it before, and I've told you, like, if you have like anything that's not like a home in a park, like you probably just demo it, because it always becomes like a hub for just crime. In this thing, like every crime under the sun had happened. And then except this one, which, happened that day. So she calls, and it's like 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. And she's like, hey, we've got like city council out here. And, one of your tenants, he's like, on the hut. I'm like, what do you mean he's like on the hut? And she's like, well, he's like, kind of exposing, he's like, and she just keeps kind of talking like, oh, I know. And I'm like, oh, he's like, he's pissing on the hut? And she's like, no, he's the husband and the hut is his wife. And I'm like, oh.
Okay.
So this guy ended up like getting arrested for I don't even know what the charges are, but he was making love to the hut.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and I try to tell people like you can't make some of this shit up. Like you just can't. Like I don't think anyone in their best creative state could make up that story that you just said there.
Yeah, I mean, we laugh about it because there's so many funny ones like that, and yeah, I mean, it just goes. We have like a folder in Google Drive that's like all of these screenshots of like stuff that people say to us, and be like selling a home on Facebook. I don't even know. They like figure out we like don't give them the deal, and they're like, okay, James Johnson, and then like list my whole address. Yeah. And yeah, just it's just working with so many people. Just comes out of the woodwork.
For sure. Did you ever get that lady to clean up in the front of the park in Tampa down the street from us?
Yeah, so we're evicting her, and then now she's like doing like a rent determination hearing that like
okay.
She doesn't know what the rent is, but it's clean. But I'm still going after it just because as that case is over, the garage sale will begin again.
Yeah, before I knew that you owned that, I was like, and I never did this. I'm like driving by there, and I'm like, code enforcement's on our ass, and this lady's got a freaking like a whole yard sale out in the front, right on the front of Florida Avenue, and I'm like, and it's been there for months.
We've done everything. Like one day I was so pissed. Like I went there, I opened up like her patio door, and I was throwing stuff from the garage sale inside. Because code was coming like an hour later. And I'm like, I was knocking, nobody's answering. I'm like, I'll just clean the damn stuff up. And then I left and she put it all right back out.
Yeah. That's crazy. And code enforcement, they're so much fun to deal with, let me tell you.
Oh yeah.
So, knowing what you know now, like what are some big, if you could go back and you were starting over and you could take the knowledge that you have now, like what would you tell yourself to like do or not do differently?
Yeah, no, great question. And I think the biggest probably do more and do differently would just be more just chasing deals in the beginning and more like not saying like no to anything. Like if I look at like my 2019 deals, 37 sider in Charlotte Metro, I think 150 or 175 grand. I, did 6 parks in Alabama that year, and we're all like under 10K a pad, 15K a pad pricing. And like all the deals that year were just insane. Like, I mean, they're just giving them away. And I was calling like the stuff that was like impossible to get a hold of. And I've talked about before in other podcasts, like I did a 46 sider in South Carolina for 275. And I talked to that guy every Friday at 8 or 9 o'clock at night for like a year. Yeah. So I'm like going out, stepping out of dinner, stepping out of the bar, like always Friday night, like talking to this old man for like an hour. And then, so like that year, like all those deals, I would like do anything to like redo that year. And I remember like I'd pass on stuff. I'd be like, oh, it's not a double digit cap rate. I'm not going to be able to close it. And then I just wish I just did more in the beginning. And I think I was scared. And like I have this big whiteboard here, and every time I do a deal, I update the board and I'll like take a picture of it kind of just to remember. And I remember like one time I had 4 deals on it. And I'm like, I have 4 under contract. I'm like, I can't, this is too much. It's like way too many moving parts. I gotta like no marketing for the next month. And then now I'm like pissed if I don't have like at least a dozen deals under contract. And we've had like over 20 at a time. So I think just like kind of almost like forcing the action. I was just too kind of scared in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes, I think just that. And then I did like a loan for a long time. And then about 2 years ago, I'm like kind of just hit like the glass ceiling. I'm like, I can't really do more. So I think I wish I probably tried to like hire quicker and just kind of have fun doing it. Like I missed all the crazy stories and getting threatened and yelled at every day. We have so much fun doing it. And I think in the beginning we didn't realize like 10% of the tenants cause 90% of the problems. Sure. So there's more of like a general like negative undertone. And then now we've like so many good people, and I just love selling the homes and seeing people like buy their first home, and have just tried to put like such a positive spin on it. We're friends with managers, I invite sellers down here and have just tried to make it fun. I mean, I love everybody that I work with. It's my closest friends. I've just tried to like make it as fun as possible. And I think like the first couple of years it was I just didn't look at it that way. So
right, because you were just grinding and moving, and that's you were hustling, man, and that's very admirable. So with what you just said about finding a bunch of deals and things, what's your take on the market now? You guys have anything under contract now, or what are you working on now?
Yeah, we've closed 10 so far this year. Trying to get to 25, so still fully on the gas. We've got 7 under contract now. So I mean the market, it's a lot different though, because like before I would call sellers and I'd be like the only person sometimes talking to them. Yeah. And then now it's more like long-term deals or like a lot of referrals. This year I think 2 or 3 of the parks that we've closed were just friends of sellers from like years past.
Okay.
It's like a lot more of that, and just trying to do more like relationship stuff, because I think the market's so competitive. And I get like, I don't know, maybe a dozen letters a week from other park operators. And sure. I still get like the super cookie cutter, I'll pay all cash. And it doesn't even have like my name on it. It'll say like, dear, Park LLC. Yeah. I like your park at my PO box. And it's like that is just getting like thrown away by everybody. So I'm just trying to like adjust to the market with just being like super more relationship based, genuine. And then it's another thing I talk about all the time on like other shows, and it's just like doing what everybody won't do. So if we're working a lead like today and the seller's like ready, they want to meet, they want to sell, like I'll fly out tonight and wow. Doing like what nobody else will do just to try and like stand out.
Yeah, that's great, man. You need a private jet, dude. I mean, I'll split one with you. One with you.
All the Florida guys, me, you, Keel, everybody has to split one.
Yeah, we can all split a jet now until we can get our own, because that's huge. If you can fly in a plane and get there the next day, that's awesome, man. Well, it doesn't seem like, I need to get more in your mentality. Like you're just like buy everything and we'll figure it out, right? And which I like that.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And so I just sort of, I was spoiled in the stuff that we did. We bought in these incredible markets and we got, we did really well. But I guess it just depends on what your strategy is, and you're doing a fantastic job. And so is there anything, any other gold nuggets you want to leave with our listeners before we close out here, Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people like just to call and just like to do something. So, even if like today, you listen to the show and you're done, like wherever you're listening, they have like the competitive advantage over like you and I. So if you live in Kansas City, I would just, go on Google, type in mobile home parks, and then just call like the closest 10 to your house. Because like if you were hired to do that, we got to book a flight, get a car, get up there, the whole 9 yards. At minimum, can't meet them until tomorrow. Or like you can call a local seller now and then meet them like later. So I think it's just that, and then just doing something. Because it's, if not, like I say, like a lot of people just kick and kick and kick. Like the list has to be perfect. I need the website, the whole 9 yards. And like just do anything. Even if you buy a home like in a park. I tell people all the time, just find like the closest 5-6 parks to your house. Show up there. Hey, I want to buy. You have any vacant homes? And can I fix it up and sell it? Can I rent it? Like, unless you buy something insanely overpriced, you really can't buy a mobile home in any park anywhere and not rent it out and make a couple $100 spread over lot rent. So even if you're making $200-300, that's still worth, taking down. So just to get in the space in any way.
Is fantastic, Jimmy. And I'm a preacher of the same thing. You have to do something. You got to take action, dude, because if you're just sitting, and yes, you can listen to us on this podcast and learn for sure, but you got to do something. You got to do something and take action. So I think that's great advice for our listeners, Jimmy. Well, thanks for being on, man. I love our conversation, dude. We'll probably have to do this again at some point. And when are you going to sell me Glen Oaks, man?
I don't know. I think if you get that one, you got to take like 2 or 3 of the worst ones too.
Well, send me something, man. Send me a couple of the others, and maybe we could work something out. But anyways, Jimmy Johnson, where can people find you actually?
They could email me. It's Jimmy jimmyjohnson.co. So not .com, just .co. Or it's probably impossible to find me on Facebook at Jimmy Johnson, but on Instagram it's at Florida Jimmy.
Well, thanks a lot, Jimmy. Appreciate you being on the show. And everybody, thank you for watching the MHP Show podcast. We are every week as of right now, and check out the website at go.parkinvestingpro.com. I will see you all next week. Peace.